Hey, I just wanted to make this video to give people a quick run through of the Bar Crusher 615C. I recently got it a couple months ago and I couldn't find that much about it online. Like the Bar Crusher people do a good run through of it, but when you're spending a lot of money on a boat, you do want to get as much info as you can and do as much research as you can. So I thought I'd do a quick run through, tell you a bit about the boat, how much I paid for it, and how it compares to other boats I've owned. It's really fucking hot outside right now, so I'm currently sitting in the cabin of it, but I'll do my best to give you a quick run through and show you a bit about it without sweating too much. So so I thought we'd start with the outside first and work our way in. So this is the Bar Crusher 615C. It's a 2014 model, and we have it paired with the Yamaha F150. And it's on a dual axle easy tow trailer. So I bought this boat secondhand. It's 2022 now, so the boat's coming up to being 8 years old. I bought it secondhand in 2022 along with the COVID tax that came with it, and I could have waited for prices to drop off a bit, but I was ready to buy and I really wanted to buy, and I was over my old boat, so it's not always the right time, but it's when I wanted to get the boat, and yeah, I didn't really want to wait, so I was happy to pay the COVID tax to have it that little bit earlier. So I'll start up the front here. So this is the electric anchor winch. I've been out probably 30 hours now since I've had it in the 2 months. I haven't had a problem with the anchor winch. It's really good. I had an electric motor on my old boat, which was, I'd say it's better, but the electric anchor is good for keeping you still, but not as good for moving around in those like reefy spots and that sort of thing. If you're sort of the bait fisherman and you like just dropping the anchor and staying still for a while, it's really good. But I do like to move around a bit, so the electric motor is definitely on the cards at the moment. So the people that I bought this off had this decking put up here. The cabin is a little bit narrower than the boat, so you can walk around it quite easily. So that makes a big difference when you're coming up the front to unhook the anchor, because this little latch here, usually you do it before you go out, but if you forget, then you've got to come up here and unhook it. Or if you need to come up here to do anything else, jumping on and off the boat, trailering, putting it on the trailer and all that. So underneath, you can see you've got the spray chines here. All this drip mark is a bit of Lanox that I sprayed on there and didn't really get good coverage. I was lazy. You can see the weld marks going along here, really sharp deep V, and you can see the quality of the welds along here. I'll go into that a bit later about how it compares to other boats I saw and what it looks like. The bar catch system, I'm sure if you're looking at a Bar Crusher, you've heard about that. The Bar Crusher YouTube page has all good info on that. That winch is a little bit loose. Oops. There we go. Yeah. So walking around the back, you see I got the side clears on. Give you a bit of a look from side on. Yeah, so moving to the back of the boat, you've got the burley muncher, tube coming down from the bait board for all the blood and gross stuff. Trim tabs is the Electro tabs. This is it's super dirty in the boat because we just had this is filmed a day after the Queensland floods, so the boat's been under a tree and getting super dirty. But yeah, this is the bar flap. So under there is the ballast that fills with water, increase the stability. The bar flap is there so you can shut that water in if it's getting a bit choppy and you get that more weight, so you can punch through it a little bit easier. I've used it a few times and I definitely think it makes a difference, and I would recommend it. If you are getting a bar crusher, you may as well add it on, because you may think about doing it later and it's easier to get it on at the beginning. The other thing I'll show you, so yeah, the F-150, I've said I've only been out for 30 hours, but it's super quiet, super punchy, and does everything it needs to do really well in this size boat. The bar crushers are often paired with the Suzuki 140, which I've heard is fine. I personally wouldn't go any less than a 150. It's more than enough, but for when you're punching through bars and you know, getting in, wanting to get home or get to cover behind islands quickly, it's always good to have a bit of extra horsepower to get you there. Yeah, so got the walk-up ladder. These are really sturdy, super strong. The only thing is, when you're actually in the water, they're quite short. You can get an extension, so if you do a lot of diving and spearfishing, I would suggest that you do get an extension, because when you are in the water, it's quite short. And moving up into the boat, you've got the walk-through transom. You take this out when you're getting in and out of the boat. This is the fold-down seat at the back. The bait board that you can pull in and out. It's easy, you just lift it up, straight in and out. You've got the plastic board on top for, you can replace that if it gets old and all cut up. The live well, super dirty live well. I haven't cleaned it since the rain, so that's why it looks like that. But yeah, the live well's quite large. You can fit, I think it's about 50 litres or 60 litres, something like that. Deck wash over here in the back corner. You got your bilge pump and your pickup for the live bait tank and the deck wash. The fold down seat. Now for me, this fold down seat always stays folded up 90% of the time, because we're fishing and usually stand up when you're traveling along. But see back there, we got 2 batteries. We got the isolator switch up here. Yeah, over there, that's the deck wash and wiring. Yeah. So checker plate flooring. When I bought this boat, it did have tube matting. It was comfortable when you're standing on it, but I found after a couple of uses, unless you're taking it in and out of the boat after every wash, it gets super gunky underneath, and it was staining the checker plate. So I had to clean the checker plate, and the tube matting is really heavy, so I got rid of that, and now I wear Crocs, which are more comfortable, and you don't have to take them in and out of the boat to clean it all the time. It's so much easier. As I said, the boat's a little bit dirty, but it doesn't matter. So I'll put that back up. So yeah, dual batteries back there. Super wide gunnels. So you can see, super wide to sit on. Often sit on these when you're fishing. There's 3 rod holders down each side, so one facing straight out, one about a 45 degree, and then one straight back. Depending on what you're doing, bait fishing, trolling or whatever. There's 3 more rod holders on the bait board, and then you got your rocket launcher up the top with 6 more. So these seats are the bolster seats. So when you're sitting, you can have it like this, or if you're traveling along standing up, you can flick it up. But yeah, they're really comfortable, sturdy, and yeah, they swivel as well. Under the seats is the tackle storage trays. You can keep all your gear. You have that on both sides. The good thing I found with bar crushers is the level of inclusion that you get with a standard boat is a lot better than most. Looking at like Surtees or Formosa or Staby or Maclay, pretty much everything that you want is an add-on. With Bar Crusher, I know you get the tackle trays, the live well, the deck wash, the burley muncher, the bait board. What else do you get? I think that's about it. Yeah, so pretty much the extras on this boat are the trim tabs, the bar flap. I have a bunk infill for the overnighters, and that's all I can think of for the moment. But if I think of anything else, I'll say. But yeah, super wide shelves under down the deck. Usually when you go out for fishing, they're pretty full with gear, so I just keep a gaff, pliers, scissors, first aid kit. Deck wash stays down there. On this side I keep my bait jig and net, and then a measure mat. I do need to find a better place for that, for the net, because it does get a bit tangled when you're trying to get a fish. But coming up to the dash, this is the Garmin Eco 751. It's a 3-in-1, so I really like it. I've had Garmin's on all my boats, so I'm really used to it. Over here you can see all the switch panels for your bait tank, ballast flat, bilge, accessory, strip lights, your deck pump, anchor light and all that. There's a little bit of paint on here because I'll go through some of the corrosion. I'll go through what I really like and what I don't like, but that's going to be a little bit further away. The throttle controls here. Up here you've got the hard top on gas struts with your side clears. This doesn't come with a front clear. I personally actually really like having the space at the front open because you get really good airflow and I can see clearly. You know, when you get a tiny bit of splash on your clears during the day, you're pretty much blind after that, unless you can put some products on there, but for the most part I just like having it clear. And the good thing about Bar Crusher is if it does get messy, you can just pull it down and then clip it on, and you can see through the front there if you need to. And there's still heaps of headroom up the top. And I have had to put it down for when it's pretty rough trips back through the bay and that sort of thing, when it's choppy and spray. But 9 times out of 10 I have it up and have that airflow. I do like the side clears on there all the time. I never take them off. They're a bit dirty at the moment, but yeah. Lots of grab rails. That's a huge difference in a lot of boats, is the amount of grab rails you need. So we've got this up here. You've got the actual window, which is super sturdy. You've got a grab rail over here, and then on the driver's side you've got one down here, and then yeah, you've got this bar going across here. And there's a bottle cap for the beers. So yeah, there are your trim tab controls here as well, I forgot to mention that, and then just your stress-free anchor winch controls up there. So as you can see, got your rocket launchers and your helm, and then your little entrance to the cabin. So this is the cabin here. Underneath these cabins I've got underneath these bunks I've got just a bunch of random stuff. I think on that side is just snorkeling gear, dive gear, a couple of life jackets. On that side is all life jackets and safety gear, and ditch bag. This cabin is about just over 6 foot in length. So we recently did an overnighter in the Gold Coast. We slept 2 people up the front, so I'm 5'11", and I was super comfortable. My mate is about 6'1". He was comfortable, and then we also had a queen mattress at the back here, and it slid under the back there, and was still enough room to put your legs under as well. And he's about 6'2", and he slept there comfortably. The only thing is it got a bit dewy, so you may want to put a cover over it. But we just had for us up the front, we just had a mozzie net coming down here, and we were fine. The only thing was this leather gets quite sticky, so you do need to put a sheet down before you go to sleep, because it's kind of hard to roll over when you're peeling your back off the leather. But yeah, shelves up here on either side. I just keep gimbal, toilet paper, keep my leader in here, plastics, emergency medication. You always keep Valium on board for if you freak out and passengers are freaking out in bad situations. I always think that's a good idea, only if you have a script. But yeah, I'll show you what it looks like with me lying down, if I can clip this on. This is me lying down. Obviously you'd have the bunk infill in here if you're doing a sleepover, but I lay down here comfortably and my feet are still on the bunk. Yeah, and if you do need the ventilation, then you can open up the hatch, and I'll show you that now. So under here, under these, you can open the hatch, and that'll allow you access to the anchor and the aerial, and if you need to get in and out when you're launching and trailering the boat, you can do that. But yeah, that's the walkthrough. As you can see, the deck space is really good on here. I think it's almost a square of 2 meters by 2 meters. A lot of people also talk about Bar Crushers having low sides. It does look like that from the outside, but the floor is actually below the waterline, so when you are up against the edge, it does hit you in the thighs quite high, which I was really surprised about when I got in here. I felt very deep in the boat. You've got the just footrest here for when you want to spin the chair around. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You got your fuel cap down here for filling the fuel. This one doesn't have a kill tank. It has the extra long range tank, so it's about just over 200 liters that can fit in here. Honestly, there's almost no point having a kill tank. People like it, but it's just another thing to clean, and it's super annoying to clean. If you have this, you don't really need to take jerrys anywhere. It's so much better. I put an esky up here between the bunks on the day trips and overnighters, then I still have the esky up there, but just keep the infills up the front. The kill tank is pretty not needed. I know partly when you on the Bar Crusher page, a lot of people do end up welding it up or putting a fuel bladder in there, and if you're buying a Bar Crusher new, then you may as well just save yourself some money and get the long range to begin with, which is what most people wish they could have done. I mean, the kill tank is only useful for about 5 minutes before you have to put the fish in the esky anyway, so, and you don't really need the storage if you have the bunks. You can put stuff under there. You do need, if you didn't have that, you would need more storage for fuel though, so it's much better having the long range tank. I'll just show you standing on the edge, walking around the deck. So this is just the roof up here. I'm looking at getting a solar panel put on here just to keep the batteries topped up. But yeah, it is wide enough to walk around. It's about a foot's width to walk around to the anchor. So that's pretty easy to do. Even at sea, when you're rolling around a bit, there's plenty of stuff to hold on to, and you don't really feel like you're going to fall out. So first things first, how much was it? So I paid $75,000 for this in 2022. So I got quotes from Bar Crusher directly for a new boat. If I wanted this exact boat built and made with the same engine, I got a quote with a Suzuki 140, so I'm glad. I would have gone with the 150 if I was building one, but this is just to let you know how much it would be with a Suzuki 140. With the same inclusions, bar catch, trim tabs, all electronics, so pretty much ready to go, was $94,000 for the 615C, and that was with a 12-month wait. So one, the reason I didn't want to do that is one, I didn't want to wait 12 months. Two, I couldn't afford it, and they were the main reasons. So I knew I had to go into the second-hand market because I wanted a boat around 6 meters. And this one came up and ticked all the boxes. I did try and get it a bit cheaper, but they already had interest, or they said they had interest, so it worked on me. I bought it. So yeah, I bought this from up north in Cairns and had it shipped down, and yeah, had no problems. It's everything I needed. Haven't had any issues so far. Motor runs perfectly. All the fittings and everything are still in really good condition. As I said, it's 2014, so you know there's going to be a few dings and marks, rock chips, and it's a fishing boat, so it's going to get dirty. It's going to get a few dings on it, but you know you do your best to keep it clean and make sure you can keep it in the best condition you can. So yeah, even if I did overpay a little bit, I'm not too worried because I wanted the boat and I'm going to use the boat. You know, I try and go out every week, so you know, if I have the boat for the next 3 years, I'm not going to notice $5,000 extra that I had to pay at the beginning. You know, I'd rather do that than, you know, the other boats I was looking at were a little bit newer. Like there's not a lot of bar crushers for sale, but the ones I was looking at were the 615, like 2016 for like 80,000 and all that sort of thing. So there wasn't a lot of room for wiggle or getting something newer with a cheaper price. So you kind of have to. It's a seller's market, so you kind of have to, you know, take what you can get. If you are patient, then it's probably going to work in your favor, but I wasn't. Yeah, but I'm super happy with everything I did, and I don't regret it. I'm stoked with how it's turned out. So the last boat I had was a Stacer 489 Baymaster. It was a 5-meter runabout with a 75 Mercury Optimax on the back. It was a 2-stroke, which I actually really liked. It was a little bit loud, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. The last time I took my Stacer out, I live in Brisbane, so I went out in Moreton Bay. It was blowing 5 knots with very little chop, and I instantly had a headache and a sore back from how much it was banging. It was ridiculous how uncomfortable it was, and next to no chop. It got to the point where I was like, I need to get a new boat that has a better riding hull. And you know, if you can't, it does come down to how you drive it in the conditions, but if you can't, you know, get to 20 knots in 5-knot conditions, what's the point? So for the area that I fished, that boat was not good, and the build quality on it, it's a pressed aluminium, so you know it's sort of an entry-level boat. I paid $20,000 for that last year, and the welds and that sort of the welds looked like melted cheese just like shoved in there. Like it was really messy. The hull would flex a lot when you hit waves, and it was really unnerving. But you know, it's probably a good family boat, like a good day boat to hit the rivers and dams, and you know, like Gold Coast Broadbeach and all that sort of thing would be really good for. And on a good days, it was handled the bay and close in offshore really easily. But it was a very uncomfortable boat in a lot of conditions, and you know, unless it was a glass out, you'd be feeling it straight away. So that was the last time I took it out, and I started looking at boats as soon as I got home. But you know, that's a pressed aluminium tinny, and you know, when you're moving into plate boats, you know, and you're paying a lot more, you'd expect it to be a better riding hull and a more comfortable, and you know, have those bit more luxury to it. I did make it bang a couple of times, you know, when you jump in waves and barreling into oncoming waves and that sort of thing. You can make any boat bang, but compared to the other boats I've had, it's ridiculously comfortable and feels way more sturdy and safe. But as I said, you're paying a lot more for a boat, so you do expect those things when you pay that much. But right now, like, yeah, I really enjoy the ride. I think it's really comfortable. One thing I have looked at getting is the suspension seats for those, so you can sit down and, you know, you don't have to stand up if it gets a bit choppy or anything. But I drive standing up most of the time anyway, so that might be a little bit down the track. Yeah, but when you're coming in through that sharp chop, I have played around with trim tabs. I still have to get used to that. Using trim tabs to push the nose down helps a lot. with the ride and keeping it punching through the waves. It does use a bit more fuel, but you know, it's comfort, so I don't really mind using fuel for comfort. And then also using that ballast flap to shut the water in. I think you get about 200 kilos of extra weight, which does make a pretty big difference. I've actually had 4 boats in the last year and a half, 2 years. The first one was just a little like 3.9 meter tiller steer tinny, but had a brand new Suzuki 30 horsepower on the back, so that was good fun. That's what got me into fishing during the very start of COVID. Quickly sold that after I wanted to get further out into the bay and do more that sort of get to the islands and do more fishing out there. I got a runabout alley craft that was 4.1 meters, which actually was a pretty good boat. It was I'll run some footage of it, what it looked like, and I'm pretty sure I did a little walkthrough of it. But for what it was really good. It was actually quite comfortable in the chop. Honestly, compared to the Stacer Baymaster, it wasn't much. Might have been even a little bit better, and it was only a 4.1. But yeah, I got out to the little islands in the bay and did a lot of fishing through there. And for what it was, it did a really good job. But probably had that about 6 months or a bit less before I bought that Stacer, and then had the Stacer about 10 months before I got this. And hopefully now I'm actually really happy with the boat. I don't have anything I want to do to the boat besides like a solar panel and maybe a privacy screen for overnighters. But the last boat I had to get a live well fabricated, I had to get a canopy fabricated, I had to get the trolling motor mount fabricated, I had to get the trolling motor, the batteries for the trolling motor, I had to get another piece of metal fabricated for the battery tray, the bait board. I probably spent about like close to 10 grand on the electric motor, and the batteries and that setup is pretty expensive. It's probably going to cost you around 6 grand. It was like the 80-pound Terrover. But yeah, along with all that fabrication, it gets super expensive. So if you are wanting a electric motor, definitely do it from factory, or at least get the bow mount from factory. And then there's a super long wait for electric motors at the moment, so you're probably going to have to be waiting a while anyway for that. But yeah, so far in the boat, I've been out in some pretty bad conditions. Like, I suppose it depends where you are, but I've been out in the bay, in Moreton Bay, wind against tide, blowing about 20 knots, and it was pretty ugly. We were coming back from Tangalooma. It was definitely a wet ride, but for the most part, I was pretty comfortable. But I wasn't driving slow. I wanted to get across as quickly as I could because I knew the wind was picking up. We crossed the bay from Tangalooma to the port of Brisbane in about just under 50 minutes, and it was it was a bit of a wet trip for the passengers. I stayed dry, but if you're in the back, then it was blowing, so you're going to get wet a little bit anyway. Like I just shut the hard top and concentrated on getting back. I could have gone slower to make it more comfortable and less wet, but I wanted to get back, so because I didn't know if it was going to get worse or not. So it handled it really well. The biggest difference I noticed is when you come out of the water or up a wave, when you land, it's so much more comfortable. The dead rise is quite sharp, so yeah, the landing is quite comfortable. In terms of stability, it's super stable. We fished 3 people outside, and yeah, it does roll a bit, but you're going to get that with it's narrow compared to the beam, so you can have that dead rise and have a better ride. So it's always a what's the word I'm looking for? It's always a compromise between what you want. But yeah, it's super stable for what I'm doing, and so far I haven't had any problems with it. If it does lean and rock to one side while you're driving around, you do have the trim tabs. I'd say the trim tabs is a must on Bar Crushers and Surtees and McLean and Extreme. All those boats are super important to have trim tabs on, but any boat is going to perform better with trim tabs. So yeah, the trim tabs make a big difference when you're going into different, angled into different oncoming seas or following seas, or have people in the boat. My camera keeps cutting out because it's so hot. Should tell you how hot it is out here. We just had like a week of rain and it's already like 40 degrees. So that sucks. But as I was saying, yeah, it does rock and roll a little bit, but with the ballast, it does pull it down into the water, and for the most part, it's really stable and comfortable. And yeah, when you have the weight unevenly distributed, the trim tabs come into use really heavily. And because we fish 3 people most of the time, it's always leaning one way, so I always have to have the trim tabs on to some degree, and make sure that everyone's not moving around, because that's so annoying when people are moving around. You have to keep changing the trim tabs and all that sort of thing. Yeah, but the only thing I guess I'd have to say about them is in the cabin they are quite noisy when you have waves hitting them in shop. You can search on Google, on YouTube for bait ball, and he's put foam padding in his cabin. I know people carpet them, which does deaden the sound a lot, but that's the only real con I can think of at the moment, besides corrosion, but that's a plate boat or aluminium boat thing in general. Not too much around that. I have sanded back and etched and painted a few spots, and we'll see how that holds up. Yeah, so that's everything I wanted to go through, and everything I would have liked to have known before buying one.